Wednesday marks the anniversary of the U.S. dropping a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima. It happened in 1945 in an effort to bring a quick conclusion to World War II. The atomic age was ushered in a secret enclave in the U.S. state of New Mexico, a town called Los Alamos. 70 years later, Los Alamos is still actively designing, building, and researching nuclear weapons. Today, the site is called the Los Alamos National Lab and employs 11,000 people. The lab has an annual budget of $2 billion. CCTV's Sean Kalos will have more on all of that during our Insight segment at 9 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Beijing time. For more on the Los Alamos National Lab and how facilities like it still exist, we're joined by Michael O'Hanlon. He's a senior fellow with the Center for 21st Century Security and Intelligence. He's also director of research for the Foreign Policy Program at the Brookings Institution that's based here in Washington. Folks watching this might be surprised about what's going on at the Los Alamos National Lab, especially with all the talk about dismantling of nuclear weapons, which occurred at the end of the Cold War. The U.S. still has more than 4,000 nuclear warheads, far more than any other country. And critics we talk to say the U.S. simply isn't doing what it said it would in terms of eliminating nuclear arms. Is the U.S. doing enough?
Great question. Well, first of all, as you know, Los Alamos is an important part of the overall complex, but it's not the place where you would do the dismantlement for the most part. It's, as you say in your intro, a place where research is still done. And by the way, they're not developing new bomb designs. They're trying to understand much of the aging process in the existing arsenal because, of course, the United States hasn't tested since 1992. We're still contemplating possibly ratifying the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, at least at some point, if the Senate ever is so inclined. And so the United States is trying, like other nuclear powers, to keep its arsenal dependable, even without testing. And that's the central purpose of Los Alamos today. As to whether we're doing enough, I still think we have a lot more nuclear weapons than we need. I'm not sure if getting to zero anytime soon is realistic, but I think we could probably be embarked on another round of reductions. But of course, we have a tough relationship now with Russia. And a big part of the logic of cutting weapons has been that we should do it in parallel with Russia at the same pace and to the same targets, because that's just better for international stability. So in the absence of a good U.S.-Russia relationship, arms control becomes a bit frozen.
But there's also a domestic dimension to all of this as well. There's a lot of lawmakers in these areas that don't want that money to go away from their regions too, correct?
Well, you know, even if we cut faster, we would still probably keep Los Alamos close to its current size. I'm one of the people who thinks we could probably reduce the other big weapons design lab, which is in Lawrence Livermore, California, in the General Bay area near San Francisco and Oakland and that sort of area. And we've had two of these bomb design labs of a comparable size, one to the other, for a long time. And the logic was you didn't want to put all your expertise in one place. You didn't want to buy into the same physics assumptions in both places. I'm not sure we need to be quite that careful or redundant any longer. But, you know, it's somewhat separate from the question of how big your arsenal is. And so, yes, I agree with you that some people want to keep a big arsenal. California and New Mexico, though, don't have enough votes to sustain Los Alamos and Livermore just based on pure pork barrel politics, unless the rest of the country thinks that there's a logic in keeping a very robust nuclear research program and a bomb custodianship program, which is essentially what goes on in those two places.
Well, we only have time for one more question. Let's talk a little bit about this logic, because former Secretary of State Colin Powell, who had a distinguished career in the military, has said, basically in a nutshell, the one thing I convinced myself of is that nuclear weapons were useless. There are a lot of people who think $2 billion is a lot of money to spend on this. In fact, even people in the Pentagon think we might be better off, we, meaning the United States, spending the money building different weapons. What would you say to that?
Well, I would agree. I mean, I think one of the challenges we have going forward is that we don't want to reduce our arsenal so fast that we embolden other countries to try to catch up to us and become essentially, you know, comparable nuclear powers. So whether it's China, Pakistan, whomever, there's no particular purpose in trying to complicate international politics. So I think we should probably stay, at least for the foreseeable future, well above those other countries. But that still allows us room to cut by perhaps 50, 75%. Provided that we can get Russia to go along. Now, Russia has these long land borders, a small population, an aging conventional military, and they may not be quite as ready to cut nuclear weapons again as we are. So I think that really is the horn of the dilemma.
Michael O'Hanlon joining us from Brookings. Thanks so much.
My pleasure.